Sue Fennessy has built 4 businesses over the last 30 years and is a leader in entrepreneurship, technology, and marketing. She has built several global multi-million-dollar media companies. Sue is a passionate human being and obsessed with how we ensure humanity is valued and protected in a technology-led world. Today, she will share her latest venture, which is set to rock the world. Let's all wake up for this one and welcome to the stage, Sue Fennessy.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today speaking to such an amazing group of women. And seeing all of you, it makes me feel really inspired and hopeful that we can come together to make the difference that's really needed in the world today. And I start off by prefacing that I'm a huge optimist. I believe that every problem on the planet can be solved. I'm a 48-year-old woman living in New York City, and the older I get, I'm probably about halfway, 2/3 the way through my life, and the older I get, the more philosophical I get. And I like to provoke myself by asking the kind of questions about what matters most. And whilst I love technology, I adore it, obviously, and get excited about the medical advancements and the fact that I can Skype my family every weekend in Australia, I'm also deeply concerned about the effect technology is having on our lives, our economic welfare, and our happiness levels. So I'm going to share a few stats with you today before we get started. And these are big issues, these are big problems. And I encourage all of you, if there's one takeout of this today, it's spend a moment thinking about these big things, knowing that every single one of you can impact these and has a role to play in solving them. So artificial intelligence with driverless cars alone is going to eradicate 10% from our workforce over the next 10 years. And it's not just the monetary impact of that work and not having the jobs. It gives people a sense of purpose, and taking that away is really worrying to me. Millennials are the most unemployed generation of our time. And if technology is improving our lives, then why is this? You know, let's ask ourselves this question and challenge why that is happening. And we also have an entire generation of people waking up desperate to see how many likes they got on an Instagram post, and they're valuing themselves just by that. So there's a whole lot of self-esteem issues that are associated with that. On the planet today, we have alarming levels of global warming and greater levels of poverty than have ever existed. And the top 8 people on the planet, the top 8 individuals on the planet, have more wealth than the bottom 4 billion people on the planet. I mean, that gap is so massive. So I ask all of you today, is the status quo okay? How are we feeling about that? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm sitting on a freight train going at 100 million miles an hour, and I'm not in control of where we're going. And I think for a lot of us today, we don't feel like we're able to affect those things that are impacting all of our lives. And as women, I believe we have a critical role, and I'm going to share with you today how you, by standing in your power and having your voice, can have a massive impact in some of those really big issues. So one more stat. Last year, $117 billion went to Google and Facebook. $117 billion in ad revenue went to Google and Facebook. And that number, by the way, stats came out last week, that 80% of the entire digital ad market is going to Google and Facebook. And that's growing at 90% year on year. And the other 20% of the ad market is growing at under 1%. So basically that means that over the next 5 years, the entire world, every piece of digital creativity, you won't be able to monetize it, only Google and Facebook will be able to monetize it. And there's something deeply distressing about that to me, because their value is us, all of us, human beings. Everything that we create, post, everything we share, all our time we spend, that is all owned by Google and Facebook. I don't know about you, do you think that's okay? That they own all of us and that they monetize it and make so much money. And before I talk about a solution that we've built for this to put the power back into the hands of the people, I just want to talk about that $120 billion for a minute. Because $120 billion could ensure that everyone on the planet has fresh water. So $23 billion of that $120 billion, so 20%, could eradicate the need for anyone to have fresh water. I grew up in a working class suburb in Melbourne, Australia, and everyone in my world worked for the man. You know, everyone had jobs, there was decent pay, and we always knew that there'd be food on the table, but it was tough. And I remember standing with my mum at the supermarket, and as the items were going through the belt, she would shift items back to the back and watch the amount going up to make sure that she had enough money. But even though that I could feel her tense, I always knew that it would be okay. And I always knew that if I worked hard enough, if I went to school, if I worked hard enough, there would be a path forward. I could get into university and I could get a job and it would all be okay. And it worries me that I can't look my kids dead in the eye and say, guys, it's going to be okay. You can do whatever you want to do. It's all going to be okay. And so I encourage all of you to look at some of these big problems and look at the control that these guys have, because today we are all working for the man. Literally the men in Silicon Valley, and we're the largest unpaid workforce in human history. So I do really urge you today to look at these problems head on and say, this isn't going to scare me. I'm going to look at this and I'm going to play a role in changing that. I'm not just going to sit on that freight train heading to Robotsville, artificial intelligence, wherever the hell you're taking me, and think it's okay. And by the way, you're not going to own my stuff. I want to own me. I want to have my voice, and I want to have the ability to monetize it and make impact if I choose. So the way the world works today is people buy brands. We all spend a lot of money buying stuff, and then brands buy ads on us on Facebook or Google or Instagram or Twitter, and they keep 100% of the money. All the people, I've just got a slide here. These people collectively have about 3 million collective followers. And last year they posted about 10,000 posts between all of them. And none of them made a cent from Google or Facebook. And yet they made them a lot of money. Excuse me. And just imagine for a second that around these people, there's 2 billion people on the planet who are creating value and creating wealth every single day. The compound effect of this is really catastrophic. If we keep going down this path where we're busy taking photos, creating, posting, and we're giving all that value away. So I've become really obsessed with the question, and I think even you look at government, and they're not going to be our saviors, so how are we going to be our own individual savior? How are we going to step into our power and own our stuff? And how is the 99.9% going to take back the power and the money? So welcome to the ADAP, the planet of the ADAP, where we have built a framework, a social media framework, where you own everything you create. Everything you post is owned by you. And you can use your influence across all of your social platforms. Everything that you've built, thank you, everything that you've spent 12 years building, you can now utilize that and use that for your own advantage. Because on the ADAP, you can get sponsored directly by brands who reward you for posting out across all of your social networks. And you get the money paid into your PayPal account, and you can choose to pay it forward if you choose. So this is how it works. In our world, in the new world, people buy brands, brands sponsor people, people share out across all those beautiful social networks that they've built, people get paid, and then you can pay it forward. And so together, we can actually take that 20%. We can take that 20% and work together and eradicate things like the need for fresh water, which including in Detroit, it disturbs me that in our own country, forgive my Australian accent, I do consider myself an American, having lived here for a while, you can make impact. So now we have a sustainable, abundant, which is what 8 is, by the way. It's the flow of abundance and wealth between people and brands and paying it forward so that it's a constant flow. It's not we do all the work, Facebook gets all the money, they make all the decisions about how our data is used. We have to stand up together. Women in this room can change that. You can step into your power and change that. So this is Ashley. She's a student, actually. She's just joined us as an intern. She posted for a brand last week, made $100, and while she's sitting there studying, she can actually make another $20, $30. The idea that she's back in her power and can start to pay off her college fees. I mean, college debt in this country is over $1 trillion. And by giving people back the power, they can start paying off another $10, $20 a week, which is a very exciting concept to me. This is Murray Coda, who's a fantastic dancer. She's got a dog. We're convinced that dog is going to make as much money as her soon. This dog is getting pretty famous. She got sponsored by True Dog, posted out across all her social platforms, and is making money. And I joke with my kids that Tilly, our Jack Russell, can start paying off preparing them to create a college fund. And this kid, DJ Filano, fabulous, inspiring kid, he can now be on his way to school, post out about Lyft, make another $20, get paid, and then pay it forward and make an immediate impact. So, when I was a kid, when I was a little girl, about 12 years old, I used to get home from, both my parents worked, and I would get home from school, and 3 nights a week I used to make dinner, which to a lot of people would seem like hell, but I'm a foodie and I I loved it even then, and I used to set up a pretend camera, obviously no mobile phones, nothing, and I would set up a pretend camera and chop up everything into the little bowls and do a cooking show. And I would speak into the camera and imagine this whole world. And for me, it was the escapism of that. And I would have a giant chute in my mind that any leftovers I would just push down the chute and imagine that that food was going immediately to Africa and feeding people. And now I think with the 8 app, I think if 8 had have existed when I was that 12-year-old kid, I would have had a real camera, I would have had a mobile phone, and I would have had Sue's cooking show, and I might have had 2,000 followers, and I could have been sponsored by Barilla Pasta, and I could have made another $20 a week, and I could have paid it forward to a charity. And it wouldn't have just been the economic impact of that, although I think at scale the economic impact, I can't see anywhere else where we're going to punt $120 billion back into the economy, because that's our mission, how to get that $120 billion back into the pockets of the people. But for me, it wouldn't even just have been about the money, it's the value. It's the sense of, because let me tell you, in the backwaters of Melbourne, Australia, I felt like I was hanging off the end of the earth. I had big things going on in my mind, and I could not have imagined how to escape that little world that I really didn't feel like I fitted into. And so it wouldn't have been about the money, it would have been the idea that I could have been seen and that I could have been heard and that I could have imagined a better future. I could have imagined a future. I could have imagined a path to escape. And that's really what 8 is. It's the elevation and bringing back the abundance for people not just to have the economic power, but the power to imagine really great things. Because in every person in this room today is enormous, enormous power, beyond what you could possibly imagine. Even in this room today, right this second, collectively, you probably all have about 3-4 million followers. So the women and people in this room could start a revolution. And I call on you today to lead with me and question yourselves about the status quo. Is it okay that I'm just giving everything away, putting it out on social media, giving away all my economic value? And if you don't think it is, come and stand with me, come and lead with me, get your friends on board, and start getting those offers from brands and using those social platforms that have been using us for so long. And after 12 months, imagine when we can all say to each other, I mean, Facebook started in a dorm room. The idea that we as a group of women at the California Women's Conference can start a revolution just by changing what we do each day. And remember, I'm not saying get off Facebook or Instagram or any of those platforms. I'm saying use them consciously and be conscious of that economic impact and take the power back and say you're going to get that money from brands before it goes to them. Thank you so much for your time.
8 believes in the power of the individual, and so do I. 8's everywhere in my life, and now 8 is my hub.
I really like the 8 app because it gives us all the tools to really monetize our creativity across all of our platforms.
While it also gives brands the opportunity to find influencers like us to sponsor.
But I think it's even more amazing that you can pay it forward. I mean, I'm an arts educator too. I think education is really important, and just knowing that I could create content and move that forward into something that is going to benefit somebody else, and that I could be an example and my work could be an example for somebody else, I think it's really amazing.
Being able to be on social media for free kind of takes a toll on you, so to be able to spend the time on the 8 app and also have an income coming in makes the time worth the while.
So in the Sponsor Hub, what's cool is that we can get an offer from any brand.
We then create a post for that brand,
We submit it to them for approval.
and then we post it out to all of our social media channels.
Boom. And then we get paid.
I feel it's really important that the Aid app is a tool for us to monetize our content online, because not only does it put the power back in the hands of the people, the content creators, but it also gives us a community where we can access original new content and share and support each other while we can make money.
Okay, so get this. I can use YouTube, and I have no idea how much money I'm making off of advertisements, probably about 5 cents. And then on the Aid app, I can choose advertisements, and I make 80% of that, which to me is pretty cool.
We really need to be able to own our content and live in a framework that respects and appreciates all the amazing things that we're doing. And that's 8. That's what 8 does.